Chapter 12. The 5 a.m. Club discovers the habit installation. Protocol. I hated every minute of training. But I said, don't quit. Suffer now and live the rest of your life as a champion. The next morning's lesson was scheduled to be on how the most productive leaders and performers on the planet install the habits that make them superstars and live fascinating, adventurous and purposeful lives. In reply to Mr. Riley's request, both the entrepreneur and the artist had arranged to extend their time away. They understood the profound value of the training they were being exposed to, and they knew their smartest move was to embrace it fully. "Hi, cats," shouted the billionaire, running up to his companions as the Indian sun rose timidly against a horizon that was at once barren and electrifying. It was precisely 5 a.m. The tycoon wore a black Nehru-collared shirt, cargo shorts and black sandals. He was smiling broadly. He still glowed from the sunshine of Mauritius. And, today, he wore a turban. This morning, I'll be walking you through the Spellbinder's insights on installing the peak performance regimes that will help you activate your greatness in business and in life. As I shared with you in an earlier lesson, what makes the best is not their genetics but their habits. And not the extent of their gifts, but the strength of their grit. Today's lesson will walk you through what the science and research tell us we must do to let go of the behaviors that weaken us and to code in the ones that will serve us. What's grit? Asked the entrepreneur, paying attention to every word the billionaire spoke. Today, she had her hair in a ponytail and simple shoes on her feet. It's a term popularized by social psychologist Angela Duckworth, who studied elite performers in the fields of business, education, the military and sports. She found that what makes the most successful achievers so great isn't their inherent talent but their levels of commitment, discipline, resilience and perseverance. Grit is her word to describe these traits. "Cool, brother," said the artist. "That inspires me not to give up on a painting when I hit a wall of self-doubt, or when I get frustrated by my lack of progress, or when I get scared others in my field will laugh because I'm producing art that is fresh and original instead of copied and derivative." "Good," responded the billionaire as he rubbed his muscular abs. Albert Einstein wrote, "Great spirits have always encountered violent opposition from mediocre minds. The mediocre mind is incapable of understanding the man who refuses to bow blindly to conventional prejudices and chooses instead to express his opinions courageously and honestly." "Love that," spoke the artist exuberantly, displaying an expression that showed his growing pride in trusting his personal vision when it came to his craft. "Anywho, let's get back on track and keep jamming on the most potent ways to install world-class habits that last versus ones that dissolve after a few weeks of trying to make them stick." Of course, this morning's mentoring class is absolutely essential for you too because, even though you guys are up at 5 a.m. daily now, we want the discipline to become a lifetime routine. Oh, and an essential part of world-class habit installation involves learning how the pros build remarkable self-control and unleash rare amounts of willpower. So, we should start there. The three companions were standing in front of the Taj Mahal. They were alone. The structure was unspeakably sublime as they stared at it, a genuine testimony to the rewards of architectural and engineering mastery. "I love India so much," declared the billionaire. "One of the greatest nations on earth. And this place, well, it's one of the 7 wonders of the world for a reason. Breathtakingly beautiful, right?" "True," admitted the entrepreneur as she sipped some very hot coffee. The billionaire held a large water bottle in his left hand. It had a statement printed on it, as his water bottles often did, which he read to his 2 students with gusto. "The hero does not become great during periods of comfort. The illustrious and noble souls of our world became strong, brave and moral whilst standing resolutely in the storms of adversity, difficulty, and doubt. It is in the moment that you face your deepest weakness that you receive the chance to forge your greatest strengths. Real power, then, comes not from a life of ease but one of intense effort. Devoted discipline and demanding action in the direction of what your supreme self knows to be right. To continue at a time when you ache to stop. To advance when you long to quit. To persist in the instant when you feel like giving up is to claim your membership among the great warriors and honorable characters who led humanity to a better place through their earned invincibility. Wow, uttered the artist. Some great poet wrote that. Nope, mentioned the billionaire. Those words are all mine. Mr. Riley then raised a hand into the air, and you know what happened. Out of the early morning mist appeared an impeccably dressed and very attractive aide. We're all so happy you're back in India, sir. We have missed you, she uttered. Here's what you asked for. The billionaire bowed slightly and gave his assistant a friendly smile. A spectacularly ornate pashmina shawl was handed to the Titan, who stretched it out in the light. As you know, pashmina is a fine type of wool from Kashmir. The term itself translates into soft gold in the Kashmiri language. And if you saw it, you'd agree it looked so. Detailed stitching had gone into the fabric and, as the two students focused more closely on it, they could see the 5-3-1 creed of the willpower warrior sewn into the shawl. Below this title was a series of statements that explained what the 5-3-1 meant. It was all quite unique. Here's what the handcrafted stitching said. The 5 scientific truths behind excellent habits. Truth number 1. World-class willpower isn't an inborn strength, but a skill developed through relentless practice. Getting up at dawn is perfect self-control training. Truth number 2. Personal discipline is a muscle. The more you stretch it, the stronger it grows. Therefore, the samurais of self-regulation actively create conditions of hardship to build their natural power. Truth number 3. Like other muscles, willpower weakens when tired. Recovery is, therefore, absolutely necessary for the expression of mastery and to manage decision fatigue. Truth number 4. Installing any great habit successfully follows a distinct 4-part pattern for automation of the routine. Follow it explicitly for lasting results. Truth number 5. Increasing self-control in one area of your life elevates self-control in all areas of your life. This is why joining the 5 a.m. club is the game-changing habit that will lift everything else that you do. The 3 values of heroic habit makers. Value number 1. Victory demands consistency and persistency. Value number 2. Following through on what is started determines the size of the personal respect that will be generated. Value number 3. The way you practice in private is precisely the way you'll perform once you're in public. The one general theory of self-discipline Spartans. To regularly do that which is hard but important when it feels most uncomfortable is how warriors are born. The billionaire closed his eyes and repeated this phrase. I don't wish for an easy life because there is no growth of my powers there. Give me a challenging life, one that brings out the finest in me. For this makes an iron will and an unconquerable character. This shawl is my gift to you too, the industrialist went on. Please do study the 5 scientific truths and the 3 values along with the 1 general theory that make up the 5-3-1 creed of the willpower warrior. It will serve you brilliantly as you encode habits that endure. Within a few moments, an auto rickshaw sped up from an empty parking area off in the distance. Out came a smiling young man dressed smartly in a dark gray jacket, perfectly pressed trousers and polished brown shoes. Namaste, Arjun, said the billionaire as he clasped his hands together. Hey, boss, was the warm reply of this assistant. Though his words were casual, the way he articulated them demonstrated immense respect for his employer. You two know the story behind the Taj Mahal? The billionaire asked as the aide stood off to the side, looking ready to offer any help Mr. Riley required. Please tell us, the entrepreneur requested. She carried a single legal notepad with a simple black rollerball pen. All the billionaire's early talk of how the misuse of technology leads to the destruction of creativity and an extreme reduction in productivity was having a major impact on her. Today, she wore a bangle engraved with the words, dreams don't come true while you're sleeping. Sure, it's a rad story, gushed the billionaire, retreating to more of his California surfer slang. Like you two sweethearts, the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan, who masterminded this marvel, was very much in love. As a symbol of his devotion to and adoration of his wife, Mumtaz, after her death in 1631, he committed himself to the construction of a monument the likes of which the world had never seen. One so extravagantly sensational, staggeringly inspirational, and structurally exceptional that all onlookers would understand the depth of this man's affection as they experienced all its splendor. "It does something to my heart when I look at it," murmured the artist, staring at the marble facade that glimmered in front of him. He squinted as the early morning rays struck his eyes. He was looking more fit, calm, confident, and poised than the entrepreneur had ever observed. "Me too," agreed the billionaire with a note of melancholy in his voice. "Seeing the Taj Mahal isn't just an excursion of the intellect. It's also a resurrection of the spirit. It wakes even the numbest person up to what we, as human creatures, are capable of producing." But to continue, once the Maharaja set his bold intention, his workers started the process of translating that lofty vision into a definite reality. Because, as you both now know, ambition without implementation is a ridiculous delusion. You two are now much more fluent in the insight that anything legendary requires generous amounts of industry, artistry, and persistency. Mastery isn't a sudden event. It really is a ceaseless process that may take years of painstaking craftsmanship, practice, sacrifice, and suffering before the finished project intensifies to a level that moves the world. This is yet another GCA, a gargantuan competitive advantage," continued Mr. Riley, "to remain loyal to your noble ideal not only during the weeks after you thought up the dream but over the long months and perhaps extended years in the parched desert of creative implementation while you endure rejection, exhaustion, the stones of jealous peers, the skepticism of your loved ones, being diverted by other attractive opportunities, and finding your way through the isolated winters of self-doubt. This is what separates the also-rans from the icons. Anyone can be great for a minute. The sport of icons is sustaining genius-grade performance over a lifetime. And that takes unusual grit and patience uncommon in these superficial times. The kind that the majority of society today has sadly failed to develop. Know what I mean? The billionaire was animated, energetic, and completely jacked up. He threw an arm into the air and flashed the universal victory sign with 2 fingers. It seemed he did so just to protect his inspiration and to insulate the fire that had been activated within his heart. Many decades ago, Albert E.N. Gray delivered an address for salespeople in the insurance industry. He called it the common denominator of success, and it distilled what the author had identified over 30 years of study as the greatest key to fortune in one's business, family, health, financial, and spiritual lives. "What was it?" inquired the entrepreneur with acute interest as she sipped her now tepid coffee. "Well," offered the billionaire, "from my recollection of the pamphlet that was made from the talk and then widely circulated to top sales professionals," he said, "I had been brought up on the popular belief that the secret of success is hard work, but I had seen so many people work hard without succeeding that I became convinced hard work was not the real secret." "So, what was it?" implored the artist impatiently. "Dude, I'm getting to it," the magnate replied playfully. "So," Albert Gray said, "this common denominator of success is so big, so powerful." "And it is," interjected the entrepreneur, equally unable to wait for the answer. Gray explained that the common denominator of success, the secret of success of every man and woman who has ever been successful, lies in the fact that they formed the habit of doing things that failures don't like to do. "Simple and profound," observed the artist as he ran one hand down one dreadlock. He, too, sipped some now cold coffee. Top producers make it a habit to do the high-value activities that average ones don't feel like doing, even when they, too, don't feel like doing them, the billionaire continued. And by practicing the desired behavior over and over, their self-mastery and personal discipline grows. And the new routine becomes automated. The artist nodded, then stroked his goatee. He was thinking about his art. I truly have been limiting myself because of my insecurities, he thought. Once again, I'm so worried about what others will say about my work that I'm not creating enough. And Mr. Riley's right, I'm not being patient and building the self-control that doing difficult but valuable things brings. I sort of just do what I want, anytime I want. Some days I have some drive, and other times I sleep all day. Sometimes I'm lazy. Some days I work hard. I'm like a cork, bobbing in the water, with no steady direction. No real structure. No real discipline. I play video games a lot, sometimes for many hours. And I have this habit of rushing to create paintings that sell fast when I need some money, instead of slowing down and concentrating all my skill on the one opus that will define the extent of my expertise, and turn my whole field on its head by its genius. So, the billionaire expounded, returning to his story about the making of the Taj Mahal. For 22 years, not 22 days and not 22 months, 22 years, over 20,000 workers toiled in the scorching Indian sun, block of marble by block of marble carried from immense distances by over 1,000 elephants, the army of craftsmen steadily erected the structure you're seeing. They faced architectural roadblocks, environmental extremes and unexpected tragedies along the journey. Yet, they were focused, fearless and relentless, dazzlingly committed to doing whatever it took to get the emperor's gorgeous dream done. Really incredible, you know, said the artist, as he surveyed the landmark. A butterfly sailed by, a few raindrops sprinkled on his face. And, believe it or not, more doves soared high above the billionaire's head. What's with all the doves, rainbows and butterflies that seem to surround you a lot of the time? Pressed the entrepreneur as she adjusted the t-shirt she was wearing. It had a quote from Oscar Wilde on it that seemed to fit the newfound awareness of the businesswoman. It read, "Be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. We all have the magic. Most of us don't know how to use it," was the Baron's brief and mysterious reply. So, getting back to the Taj Mahal, after 2 decades, this mausoleum was complete, he remarked in a hushed tone. And humankind was given one of the greatest products of poetic audacity it has ever received. I'm beyond inspired, confided the entrepreneur. Thank you so much for bringing us here to Agra. I'm ever so grateful. The emperor must have really cared for his wife, mused the artist, delivering a penetrating reveal of the wonderfully obvious. He then looked intently at the entrepreneur. Her radiance went far beyond the basic beauty of starlets, models and women of high glamour. Hers was a quieter, more profound loveliness, the kind that makes sunrises special and moonbeams enchanting. He thought to himself that this woman's magnetism comes from a place deeper than merely an attractive face. It was a charm born of struggle, an electricity emanating from hurt, an energy emitting through a formidable intellect and a prettiness formed by her robust resolve to step into a person of true power, wisdom and love. The Taj Mahal is such a direct metaphor for you cats to consider on the subject of staying with the commitment to a new habit through whatever hardships show up, in remaining sincere to your ideals not only in the seasons of comfort but especially when it all gets terrifically difficult. And that's why this morning's coaching is so exceedingly important. What you're about to learn will help you implement so much of the philosophies I've shared with you up until now. The spellbinder has carefully developed the model I'm about to reveal, over many, many years working with business builders, masterful achievers and change makers like myself. Today's session isn't so much about why you should embrace the morning ritual of rising before the sun. It's much more about how you can get this routine done as a lifetime regime, explained the industrialist as he rubbed an earlobe like an imaginative child rubbing a magic lamp. Awesome, said the artist. I need this. The practical ways to make sure I don't stop getting up at 5 a.m. after this adventure ends. Cool, indicated the billionaire. Then let's go. Two burly security guards then led the billionaire, the entrepreneur and the artist through a private entrance into the complex, usually reserved for heads of state, members of royalty and other global leaders. Once inside the monument, which was dark and still, the billionaire began his discourse. This is a fascinating, riveting, confusing and exciting period in the lifeline of the world. For those showing up as victims each morning, and every day, the future will be very hard, dangerous and frightening because they won't know what hit them, and they'll be absolutely unprotected to deal with the environmental, economic and societal upheaval that is coming. Yet for the dedicated minority who have habituated a battle-proofed morning routine to defend their gifts, cultivated heroic personal restraint and developed a bulletproofed character through the rigorous training of their muscles of self-discipline, the times ahead will be phenomenally rich, harmonious and ultra-productive. Those who have armored themselves against the turbulence on its way by installing a world-class and carefully granulated morning ritual will actually be in a position to leverage all the messiness into humongous opportunity, and transform all the confusion into a supreme sense of clarity, genius and calmness that allows them to win. The billionaire rubbed his turban and then, for some reason unknown to his two students, began to whisper. The first insight I'll offer you here is that your brain is constructed for expansion. Yes, I'll agree those who are stuck in their pro and personal lives and those who are working under a mentality of can't versus running a psychology of possibility will argue that there's no way they can make the improvements they need to make by wiring in great habits like being members of the 5 a.m. club. They'll fight to the death on the reality of why it's impossible for them to accelerate their creativity, productivity, prosperity, performance and impact. They'll totally try to get you to believe their rationalizations for being unable to materialize an amazing career and manifest an exquisite private life. They have given away their power to make change for so long, they've come to believe their powerlessness represents the truth. Neglect your power long enough and you'll eventually believe you don't have any. But the reality of their conditions is a very different story. The fact is that such people, good, well-intentioned, talent-filled people, have allowed the forces of their sovereign selves to become corrupted so often they've succumbed to a state of acute passivity. Yes, most people are passive instead of active builders of the ambitions within them. And then unconsciously they've manufactured a series of excuses about why they can't show up as leaders in their work and capable creators of their lives because they're so scared to leave the safety of their stuckness and make the very improvements that would bring them to glory. The billionaire stopped to draw in a giant gulp of air. A ray of golden sunlight peeked into the Taj Mahal. Then he carried on. Science now confirms that our brains can continue to grow throughout our lives. This beautiful phenomenon is called neuroplasticity, and it speaks to the fact that the human brain, like personal willpower, is a lot more like a muscle than previously understood. It's plastic in a way. Push it and it'll expand. Flex it, and it'll extend, and become more potent for your use in the tallest expression of your most radiant gifts. So, you want to make sure you exercise your brain aggressively to make new habits like getting up early your new normal. Neurons that fire together, wire together, you know. As you repeat the routine you wish to add to your lifestyle, it becomes easier and more familiar. That's a really important point to contemplate, and then act on. I've never been aware that we actually have the ability to grow our brains, noted the entrepreneur excitedly. And I guess what you're saying is the more we practice a fresh habit, the more our brains will work with us and evolve to make it part of who we are. Right, yup, responded the billionaire. He loved seeing how the two human beings he was mentoring were improving through his sharing. Real leaders always feel great joy when they shine a light on the talents of others. Powerful idea, he went on with his finger now on the wall of the wonder of the world. You don't have the brain you want, you have the brain you've earned. Or to put it another way, you don't have the brain you desire. You have the brain you deserve, based on how you've been operating it. Spend your days diverted by your devices, tethered to television and majoring in mindless pursuits, and your brain will be weak and flabby through your mistreatment of it. Just like other muscles, it will atrophy. And this will result in weaker cognition, slower learning and lower processing power. Your competition will destroy you, and your targets will elude you. On the other hand, when you use your brain intelligently by expanding its limits and running it like a titan, it will expand and increase its connectivity, causing important gains in your productivity, performance and influence. The brains of London taxi drivers were studied, and the area responsible for spatial reasoning, the hippocampus, was found to be significantly larger in them compared to the brains of ordinary people. Guess why? Because of the complexity of the street system in London, the artist responded confidently. You got it, applauded the billionaire. So, just as you develop your biceps in the gym by lifting dumbbells or doing push-ups, the cabbies in London flexed their hippocampi as they drove each day. And, like I said, given that the brain is a lot more like a muscle than neuroanatomists previously understood, that part of it grew stronger. See how powerful we human beings are. This is a superb example of the neuroplasticity we all have at our disposal. The brain can be strengthened, sculpted and optimized, if we choose to make it so. When you guys get home, study this phenomenon as well as the awesome process of neurogenesis, which describes the brain's natural ability to actually breed new neurons. The emerging neuroscience explaining the availability of mastery to every single person alive today, no matter where they live or how old they are or what they do or how hard their pasts have been, is so incredibly exciting, the tycoon gushed. Anywho, he added, for now, please just know that the brain has a malleability and a muscularity to it. And what makes the great ones is they truly understand that daily discomfort is the price of enduring success, and that pushing ourselves hard builds the kind of brain that generates military-grade discipline. It's such a myth that the superproducers had easy lives. The billionaire reached into a pocket, pulled out a sealed envelope and handed it to the entrepreneur. Please open this, and read it for us, with as much conviction and passion as you have, the Baron instructed politely. Inside, on a neatly folded piece of fine stationery, the businesswoman found the following words of the illustrious philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. Do not talk about giftedness, inborn talents. One can name great men of all kinds who were very little gifted. They acquired greatness, became geniuses, as we put it, through qualities the lack of which no one who knew what they were would boast of. They all possessed that seriousness of the efficient workman which first learns to construct the parts properly before it ventures to fashion a great whole. They allowed themselves time for it, because they took more pleasure in making the little, secondary things well than in the effect of a dazzling whole. Flip the page over, please, requested the billionaire as his eyes twinkled in the light entering the Taj Mahal. The entrepreneur read a second quote that had been carefully written with what she guessed was an indigo ink fountain pen. The phrase was from the English poet William Ernest Henley. Imagine these words infusing the deepest and most unstained part of your soul.